I'm a Resident Evil guy. It's one of my favorite franchises. I can't get enough of the eerie atmosphere of RE1, walking through the halls of the Arcalay mansion hoping a zombie or Crimson Head isn't lurking behind a corner. I love the controls and camera too, making you feel as if you're always being watched. The more action-based horror of RE4 is something worth mentioning as well, and I even made a whole video about it if you'd like to watch it. Resident Evil nearly pioneered 3D survival horror and influenced many of the games that came after it, but this video isn't about that. Recently, I've had an itch in my ball sack to branch out into more survival horror franchises, but what did I want to play? I could play something like Dino Crisis, or Parasite Eve, or maybe even Hello Kitty Cruisers. Oh wait, that's not in the notes. But despite all these wonderful options, I chose Silent Hill. I've always heard and seen Silent Hill, but never really looked into it. The only thing I knew for sure was that Pyramid Head was in Silent Hill 2. Other than that, I couldn't tell you a thing besides that survival horror. But that's what drew me to it. My itch to play another survival horror game could finally be scratched by Silent Hill, and not knowing a thing about it made it all the much more intriguing. So I downloaded DuckStation and started my trail into the town known as Silent Hill.
My Negro, that is positively outrageous.
Now, to actually start this video off, I must say, I did not like this game. I rewrote this script about 2 million times, and each time I find myself disliking the game more. I don't even know how that's possible. We're gonna have to start calling this game Silent Mid. Now, before the Italian mob comes after me and I'm physically beaten up and captured, I ask you to take your rose-tinted glasses off and let me explain. Silent Hill isn't a bad game. In fact, it's a pretty monumental one. Silent Hill influenced an array of games that came after it, and is now an extremely recognizable franchise. It may even be coming back here soon along with Metal Gear, which would be extremely cool. Silent Hill did what a lot of games didn't at the time, and actually make a game focused on characters rather than core gameplay, and that's fine. That's great even. Some games today can't even manage to do that. I mean, Silent Hill does have some very intriguing characters, and that's about it.
John Mornis.
As I just mentioned, the core gameplay of this game just isn't there. The combat is extremely lackluster. With the already minimal weapons you get, the only thing worth using is the handgun. They pretty much give you infinite ammo for this thing, and it seems like any basic enemy can die in about 3 to 5 hits. Let alone the fact that nearly all the enemies can just be ran past anyway. It's not like Resident Evil where you have to strategically choose the enemies you need to kill and keep alive so you have enough ammo. A lot of the survival in this horror just isn't there. All the bosses are easy too. Just pull out the trusty shotgun or rifle, then just stand and shoot. There are melee weapons too that aren't even really worth using, besides to get away from using the handgun all the time. Unfortunately, it doesn't just stop at the combat. A big part of this game is running around the town of Silent Hill, which makes sense, but it's completely to the game's detriment. After every level, you must run halfway across the map to get to the next area. Oh, but you're supposed to explore, and I agree. But having the game simply be covered in snow, along with running across the map, deters me from really wanting to find anything. For me, the game just ended up becoming get to point A to point B while dodging enemies. There's one more thing about the gameplay I'd like to mention too. A main feature of Silent Hill is the upside down nightmare realm. Yes, we're in Stranger Things. And this is cool, for the first time. When you're in the school and come out of the clock tower just to realize you're in the same place but altered is really eerie and well done. It makes you question if anything is real or just in your head. Unfortunately, the novelty gets lost when it happens again, and again, and again. To add on, the loop of going through a building once and through the same building again just isn't all that exciting to me. Especially since all you're looking at is a bunch of rusty textures. It's not that intriguing, it's not that fun, and it's really not that scary. But that's for the next section. The atmosphere and locations in this game are just as bad as the gameplay in my opinion, with a couple of exceptions of course. To start off, the main atmospheres in this game are snow, dark, and rust, and that's it. All these simply aren't that good. The snow is the most prevalent as it completely covers the town of Silent Hill. At first, it gives the feeling that the town is quiet, abandoned, there's nothing here except you and your thoughts to dwell on. And then you get used to it. The once lonely snow becomes an eyesore to look at. And I'm aware part of the reason it's like this has to be due to hardware limitations and being able to load stuff in. It's not like they could magically make it go away, but it still doesn't change my point. The dark and rusty, or nightmare parts of the game fall short of the same problem, At first, it was eerie and nerving walking around in a world that just looked completely different. What other horrors could possibly await? And then, once again, you get used to it. The once novel atmosphere just becomes another eyesore, especially seeing the rusted textures over and over. The game uses the theory that dark equals scary, and I simply don't think that's true. This leads me to the locations of the game. Most of them are pretty bland and all look similar. Like the first two areas of the town both look exactly the same, and the nightmarish versions of the school and hospital both look the same as well, seeing as it's all just rust. However, I can compliment the game on something here. The resort area is easily the best explorable location. It even has Dr. Kaufman's side quests to get to the different endings. The dark adds to it in this occasion as well, really amplifying the feeling that it's abandoned. The area is different enough from the start that it actually feels like a breath of fresh air. My other favorite area is Nowhere, or the final area in the game. It does fall short to the repetitiveness of the nightmarish atmosphere, and it's literally just the hospital again, but the fact that each door leads to a previous area is a nice concept. It's like you're everywhere, but nowhere at the same time. The area as a whole feels something more akin to something like Resident Evil with the interconnectedness. I wish more areas of the game could have been like this, or even the whole game, instead of just running around an empty, snowy town half of the time.
I'm lurking and I'm stalking when you least expect.
Now this is a short section, but the simple fact that the game is old does not condemn it for its sins. I know the game was under strict restrictions, but still doesn't change my point. Many old games still hold up today, and are even better than a lot of games that come out now in my opinion. Look at Ocarina of Time, or Majora's Mask, and I've already mentioned it a couple of times, but look at Resident Evil. That game is still amazing, even on the PS1. A game being old does not automatically mean that it should fall short to simple things like core gameplay mechanics or atmosphere and location. Now I know I've been bashing the game throughout the entirety of this video, and I even blatantly said I didn't like this game, but I lied. Well, not completely. I mean, there is some things that this game doesn't fall short on. Silent Hill has a great story for its time, and really strong characters. The story takes you as Harry is looking for his daughter Cheryl while finding out the mysteries and true horrors of the town known as Silent Hill. There are multiple endings too, including 2 bad ones and 2 good ones, with the good plus ending being canon, where both Harry and Sybil make it out alive and raise their adopted baby. There's also a joke ending where Harry gets abducted by aliens. This is the best ending. I mean, honestly, it would be pretty cool if more games did stuff like having completely random endings. They're just jokes, but they're still there. Anyways, the game focuses more on a psychological horror than anything else, and through its characters, it does it masterfully. Throughout Harry's journey, we meet characters like Sybil, who is a cop who wants to get to the bottom of everything. Dahlia tells us of a cult and how to stop it, but she's deceitful herself. Dr. Kaufman seems like a regular startled man at first, but we later found out he's actually a part of the cult and peddling drugs. Lisa is a scared nurse slowly losing her mind as she finds out that she's one of them and giving us the single best moment in the game. Alessa is Dahlia's daughter, who's been painted as the villain, but has actually been trying to help the whole time. By the end of the game, you really feel like you're connected to each one of the characters and feel for each one of them too. There's not a large cast either, which really helps the game in my opinion. There's just enough characters to not make the story convoluted, and that makes everything twice as impactful. Another thing I really liked about this game was the soundtrack. One thing about Silent Hill, the soundtrack is marvelous. I mean, at least like 4 songs, but still. From the start of the game to the end, there are always these moments or scenes where the song really takes the forefront. I mean, that's why I've been using it throughout the entire video. Even in the opening montage, the song that plays feels eerie while also being soothing, as scenes play about events that happened previous to the game. This leads me to Lisa's death. This is easily in my top 10 for best scenes in games. You walk in on Lisa, and she finds out that she's one of them, and she just can't comprehend it. She asks Harry for help, and we get this. And I know every video about Silent Hill puts the scene in there, but I gotta play it. The animation in the scene is so detailed for what it is. Blood is coming out of every crevice in Lisa's body, and you feel every drop of that. The unnatural movements of Lisa add to the scene too. You can almost feel her pain as she tries to walk and get help, all while knowing she can't be saved. The thing that wraps this all up though is not Tomorrow, the theme that plays throughout the whole scene. It's so distraught and dreadful, while also feeling calming. It is by far the best song in this game, and arguably one of the best in any horror game. I went into Silent Hill thinking it'd be similar to previous survival horror titles like Resident Evil, and that may have been to my detriment. I mean, in many ways it is similar. The fixed camera angles, the tank controls, the solving puzzles to progress. However, that's pretty much it for the similarities. Everything else is a drastic change, and I'm not talking about Dino Crisis. Silent Hill is a much more slow, methodical game. It takes time to build its story and characters rather than its core gameplay, which I can appreciate that, but I still think not focusing on the gameplay is to its downfall. No matter how good the story is, it should have the gameplay to support it. Otherwise, I'd just go watch a movie or play Life is Strange, and that game sucks. Silent Hill provides a psychological horror rather than one that relies on the atmosphere. The game is more open and requires more exploration to get all the endings. They try to make you really figure out the story rather than spoon feed it to you. If Silent Hill had better gameplay and locations, it might have been one of my favorites. Unfortunately, it just falls short on so many aspects that I value highly in a game. Silent Hill will always be looked at as a revolutionary game, and if you like it or love it, then that's amazing, and I wish I could be more like you. But in my opinion, Silent Hill is just better left silent.